Hey everyone, in today's video we're gonna learn how to improve our piece coordination. Piece coordination is, simply put, how well your pieces cooperate together. And I want to give you 3 important tips to improve your pieces, and the first one is to watch out for loose pieces. This is more of a defensive idea to avoid blundering pieces. Games are very often decided by blunders, so we want to prevent them. Let's start with this position where it is black to play. Black play the move king to h8. Ignoring the fact that the knight on g4 and also the rook on a8 are fairly loose, they're not defended. So after the move queen to e4, white is going to win material, so black decided to resign. In any case, let's evaluate some alternatives. First of all, let's talk about piece coordination. White has very nice pieces already developed. Even the rook on a1 is eyeing the pawn a5, whereas most of black pieces are on the 8th rank, so white has much better piece coordination. In fact, white even gave material. White gave a rook for a bishop and a pawn, but based on better piece coordination, white is doing even better in this position. Besides queen to e4, there's an idea to go queen to e6, so black has to be careful. Black can save material, for example, after going knight to h6. Here the knight on the edge of the board doesn't look very well. White can continue developing. One idea might be to go b3 to bring the bishop to a3 and attack the rook on f8. Or another idea might be to go f5, now defending the knight, and the knight might even go back to f6, but in this case, after the move h3 and knight to f6, we see that the move f5 has weakened a few squares, so after a move like knight to g5, the knight is coming to e6, and black's position is also looking very shaky. The next important idea to improve your piece coordination is to make all of your pieces participate in the game. So let's start with this position where it is black to play. If you have this position and you have to make a quick decision, I would only focus on 2 moves, basically developing the knight. The knight cannot develop to a6, so the knight can develop to c6 or to d7. So black has to activate the remaining pieces. White already has connected rooks, white has more development, so this position, as we'll see, can get critically bad for black very easily. So here a move like knight to c6 makes sense, developing the knight. The knight on c6 is a bit more active, but on the other hand, it is blocking the bishop on b7. That's why the move knight b to d7 might look a bit more natural, and black is in the game here, ready to continue developing the other pieces. Taking on d4 might also be an idea, although this might activate the knight. Or the move a6, preparing b5, might be possible, but as I said, if I only had a few seconds to play this position, I would try to develop all of my pieces since black is underdeveloped. But instead in this position, black played the move knight to e4, which might look natural to improve the knight, and you heard that very often in the opening, moving a piece twice is bad, sometimes it's very risky, and this case is no exception, because the knight on e4 might look nice, but white can simply trade knights, and after bishop takes, rook f to d1, white is gaining more development, and now there are concrete threats like taking on c5, attacking the queen. The bishop on e4 is going to be more loose, that's another problem. For example, after black takes, white can take with the knight, also with the rook, attacking the bishop and the queen. This position is already looking very bad for black. Black should go bishop to d5, and here white has a few alternatives, but even the simple bishop takes and rook a to d1 will collect the pawn on d5. So after rook f to d1, white has a very large advantage. The game was very short, so let's see the rest of the game because it was very exciting. After queen to c8, here white took on c5, and after bishop takes, now following this idea of making all of the pieces participate, here the move rook a to c1 is very simple and good, activating the least active piece and also eyeing the queen on c8. White played an alternative, which is the move knight to e5. So even though here white is moving a piece twice, white has a lot more development, and this move has a very concrete idea, which is not to allow black to develop the knight on b8. So the knight cannot develop to c7, and after knight to c6, knight to d7, black is in a lot of trouble. For example, after rook to d8, bishop to a6 will trap the queen on c8. So in the game, black tried queen to b7, and after queen to g4, protecting the pawn on g2, bishop to f5, queen to g3, king to h8. Basically, white has a much better position, even a winning position. Here white tried bishop to e2, again going rook a to c1 was fairly good and simple, but the move bishop to e2 plans to go bishop to f3 and attack the queen on b7, and after f6, bishop to f3, bishop to e4. Here white played a very brilliant move, But the point is that when you have much better pieces, tactical possibilities appear a lot more easily. So here white played a very brilliant knight to g6. Giving a check and attacking the rook, black cannot take with the bishop because white would simply take the queen. Here black tried king to h8. If black had tried to take the knight with the pawn, then white can force an advantage after queen to h3, and then queen takes e6 will collect more material. So black went king to g8, and after bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes, white is winning an exchange and having a better position. If black takes on f8, then white will take the knight on b8, or after e5, white played knight to e6, attacking on g7, and here black had enough and resigned. There were way too many threats in the position. For example, after g6, white can even play the move bishop to h6, rook to d8 is coming, also knight to c7 is an idea, knight takes c5 as well. White has an extra exchange and a much better position. And before I move on to the last important idea to improve your piece coordination, if you want to seriously improve at chess, I have a free course that will provide you with a training plan for that, so feel free to check the link in the description. And the last important idea to improve your piece coordination is to maximize the activity of your pieces. And how to do that? You simply try to occupy more squares with those pieces. So let's start with this position where we have a material imbalance. White has a bishop and a knight playing against a rook and a pawn, and we see that the knight on b3 is pinned, and black has these two connected pass pawns on the queen side. So we can imagine some scenarios of white misplaying this position and these two pawns being extremely dangerous. So white might have to be careful in this position. Here he first played the move queen to c6, attacking the rook, and after rook to f8, knight to d4 is already improving the knight. That was not doing anything on b3, the knight is centralized. In this position black played the move king to h8, and now here we're combining this idea, maximizing the activity and also making all of the pieces participate. So here white played a very strong bishop to e5. A move like knight to f5 might look interesting at first sight, but the bishop on f4 was not doing anything, and here black can try queen to e6, inviting a trade of queens because black would be happy to start pushing the pawns. So here white plays the move bishop to e5, maximizing the activity of his pieces, also coordinating the pieces very well. Now knight to f5 might be an idea because it will attack the pawn on g7. So that's why black tried f6, and in this position, white, who is a formal champion, he knows that the best defense is to attack whenever that's possible. He didn't move the bishop, he first played the move knight to e6, attacking the rook, and after rook to g8, bishop to d4. Both the bishop and the knight are eyeing the king side, so white has an idea to attack the king. Here black went h6, and here Capablanca played a very nice move, h4. White doesn't need to rush. The move h4 gives some squares for the king, and white might also have an idea to go h5, controlling the g6 square. So in this position black played the move queen to b1, and white finished the game in style. A move like king to h7. One idea might be to go h5, and then go queen to e4, knight to f4, and then bring a knight to g6. White's pieces are coordinating very nicely to attack black's king. Black's pieces are definitely not coordinating well, so black is having a hard time finding a good move. For example, the rook can move only to b8, but that will leave the king undefended. So here black tried queen to b1, and in this position Capablanca played the very nice knight takes g7. Again, the side who has more coordination will normally find tactical ideas more easily. After knight takes, black went queen to g6, but let's evaluate the alternatives. If black takes with the king, then after queen takes, king to h7 and queen to f7, white will force a checkmate. Or after rook takes, queen takes, black is having a hard time defending the rook on g7. For example, after queen to g7, white can simply capture because the rook is pinned. Or after queen to h7, queen to f8 will force queen to g8. Now white can take on g7, and the queen on g8 is pinned, so black is going to lose material. Black cannot take on g7. In the game, black tried queen to g6, and after h5, queen to f7, and knight to f5, white is simply crushing here. Black has very weak pawns and a very weak king, so white won the game in just a few moves. So hope that you can use these ideas to improve your pieces in your games and stop ruining good positions. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.